It's not me! Just look at it! Yes, have a good day, Mother.
What? Something's different about you. I changed? Oh, you're right. I usually don't wear a jacket. Now that we've gotten the cosmetic talk out of the way, welcome back to Jump Scare Saturday. In order to make these Saturdays entirely possible, follow me on Twitter at running_AO. Send me a link to the scariest video that you can think of using the hashtag Jump Scare Saturday. If I like your video, it'll be included in the next episode and you get a shout out. Today's subscriber shout out goes to In Memory. I hope I said your name right. Either way, just know I appreciate you. Our first story was sent in. It's a miracle. Evie Penny, shout out to you, my guy. All this time, I thought I was just talking to myself. You're amazing. Wonderful. That's all I got. Thank you for hearing me. This story is called The Woman on the Bus, sent in to us by Evie Penny, who clearly can hear me. The only thing that's missing is go ahead and strike a pose on that like button. Thanks.
This happened when I was on my way to my grandmother's house. On that day, I tried to catch the jeepney because the other buses were already full at 12 a.m. I finally found a jeepney, and there were only a few people inside.
You don't know what a jeepney is?
There was a driver, a money collector who was hanging onto the outside of the vehicle, two girls, a few guys, and an old woman.
It's an illegal taxi
service. We were on
service.
the road when we passed by a mental hospital. Then a lady, with a hospital gown on, was standing there, pointing her finger out, which meant she wanted a ride. She was bald and her face was pale white. The jeepney stopped next to her, and the inside of the car went silent.
I bet.
The streets were covered in fog and darkness, and the light of the jeepney was the only light source. At the time, I was texting my grandma and said that I was going to be late while glancing at the lady. However, before she stepped on the stairs of the jeepney, the driver abruptly jammed the accelerator and left her behind.
He took off on her.
I was confused. It seemed like everyone was too.
Right.
When we looked over at the driver,
look at that
he
face.
seemed to be so scared.
I'm out of here, bro.
We didn't know the reason why. I asked him why he left the lady behind,
Right, buddy.
and he replied with a trembling voice. He said, "She's not just a lady, ma'am."
It's an X.
At that point, the driver looked at the rearview mirror, shut his mouth, and then increased his speed. When I followed his eyes towards the mirror, I saw it.
Oh my!
The lady was running towards the jeepney with a weird pose and an abnormal speed. She was so fast that I couldn't see her face
Yeah, y'all gotta
clearly,
take off on that.
but her dress was visible.
What?
It was covered with blood. The collector, who was
Oh my
hanging
God.
outside,
He is so
jumped
scared
inside
right
and then yelled to the driver, "Faster! She's getting closer!"
Get out of here, bro.
People inside of the jeepney were getting scared.
I can see.
I was the closest to the door, and out of nowhere saw the lady jump on the vehicle. She then slowly hung onto the door of the jeepney.
How did she
and
catch up to them?
finally, she lifted her face.
Look at that
She
smile.
had bruises all over her face,
sir.
and she was smiling at us with sharp teeth and big, deep black eyes. My heart almost stopped,
I bet.
and everybody in the jeepney screamed. I quickly hit her with my bag, and she tumbled down from the jeepney. However, the moment she got off, I saw her standing. She looked at me and then laughed
That's the
like a
creepiest
demon.
pose right there.
Not long after, the jeepney finally reached the station. Everyone hurried off the car.
We gotta get out of here.
I got off and handed my payment to the guy. Then
Thank you.
I went to the 7-Eleven nearby and bought some snacks to ease my nerves. I was at the counter thinking about what just happened, and then the cashier suddenly asked me, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I'll just say that I saw a crazy lady on the road when we were riding on the jeepney. I said, and then I couldn't believe his response. I know her. She had cancer, and the moment she lost all of her hair, she went crazy,
What?
laughing all the time, hurting herself, and even threatening to kill people. That's why her family eventually moved her out to the mental hospital. But after a week, she tried to escape.
Oh,
Got
wow.
hit by a jeepney
Oh.
and died, he said. I was shocked, and goosebumps were all over my body.
That's tragic.
I asked the cashier if he still remembered the plate number of the jeepney. Well, for my privacy, I'm not going to mention the number, but after he told me, I thanked him, got my change, and looked for the jeepney I was on. The moment I found the jeepney again, I froze. The jeepney that I rode was the same one that hit and killed the lady.
That's crazy. She out here looking for revenge, y'all. Again, Evie Penny, thank you for that. It's a good warm up. The rest of today's short horror films were picked by myself, but don't worry, we still got 6 days, for you guys to send in some more submissions. Our next film is Periscope by French Horror Stories. Oh, marry me, Sally. Ooh, look like it loud. When do you come back? I want to be with you in NYC. What is? Oh, we starting like that, huh? Who's the man behind you? Time to go. It's your boyfriend. I come back soon. Damn, I thought it was a ghost. LOL, she a slow reader. Can we see the man with you? Dang. OMG. There's someone in your place, Sally. Why she only got one L in her name? Call the police. Go out. He got a knife. Call the police. You're not here, safe here. Live from my hotel in NYC. Oh man, this is a quick one, by the way. So get ready for the jump scare. You know it's coming. It's coming fast. What is that noise in the back? So Maya, don't be stupid, please. Everybody saw someone in your place. Call the police. You are not safe here. She's true. There's nobody in my room. Oh my goodness. I can feel it. You know it's coming. Classic rule, the shorter the film, the cheaper the jump scare. Never changes. Our next film is the book horror story animated, sent in by a newcomer, the Assassin Rapper. Never seen one of his videos. Very excited to check this one out.
Tony was in the woods last week with a few of his friends, and they were with this guy that was new from school, who claimed to know all about black magic. Tony and his friends didn't take him seriously. The guy was called Gerald.
I'm gonna guess it's that
Gerald
guy.
had asked Tony,
Gerald?
did he know much about black magic? And Tony said, trying to keep a straight face, "Oh yeah, I could write a book on it." His friends
we don't mess
knew
with
he was
that.
being sarcastic. A few nights later, Tony was sitting down watching TV when he had spotted something on the ground that hadn't been there before.
It's a
He
book
was
on the
trying
ground.
to figure out how it got there. It seemed to be a book. The cover was just plain, and the book didn't seem to have any title. He began
up
to
the
start
book.
reading it. He read, "I was just sitting down, relaxing, reading, when I started hearing weird sounds, but I didn't know which direction they were coming from. It just seemed like there was a weird sound in my ears."
Huh?
Then suddenly the lights went out for a second and came back on
Time to go,
again.
folks.
Tony
Time to
felt
go.
a shiver run up his spine as the lights in his living room had just gone out the second he had read that the light had gone out, and then the light came back on again, just like written in the book. He began to read on. He read, "I was wondering what was happening. I felt weird, but I didn't know why to explain what was happening. Then suddenly a light entered the room." Tony was freaking out at this stage, as there was a light entered the room after he read about it happening in the book. He had decided to just shut the book and forget about it, but his curiosity was getting the better of him,
do
so
it.
he read on. He regretted
Of
reading
course.
it as soon as he read the sentence.
I bet.
Gerald walked into my room and went to attack me.
Oh!
Tony knew martial arts, so was ready for him and
What?
threw him over his shoulder. Gerald hit his head off an ornament and blood poured from him. Tony
What?
knew he had killed him. Tony knew it was self-defense, so had decided to call the police. But before he rang, he saw a page on the floor. He read what was written on it. "Gerald will come back to life and possess your body." Tony
What?
turned around
What?
and without even being able to
Oh my
react,
goodness.
was possessed by Gerald. And then Gerald spoke in Tony's body. "Now, Tony, you will be able to write a book all about black magic."
Vamos a jugar en el 43.
What you about to do? A cheap jump scare? What is going on? I'll see you in your nightmares. Can't all be winners. Hey, we tried. Nice job though, bro. Pretty okay video. Our next video is Fox, which literally claims to be the best short horror story ever made by Film Short. All right. Whoa. What is going on? Are you okay? Ooh. What is that? What is going on with the crazy music? Start for it. She out of there, folks. She out of there.
We can't let her escape. Let's go. Over here.
How many of them is there?
Come on. Now
Look at them eyeballs, though, bro. Oh my god. Oh my god. Those eyeballs are distracting. The suspenseful music. Gotta have that. Run, Forrest.
I'm home.
Speak.
I'm home. Mom! Mom!
She can't hear you, homegirl. Your
Mom!
mom's neck, though.
Mom, I'm back. Foxes, they kidnapped. They made me dig in a mine. It's been days. I thought.
Emily, let's go. If you're late one more time, Miss Patterson's gonna give me detention.
Mom, I'm right here, Mom. Haven't you noticed me missing? Ready to go, Mom.
You've been
My
replaced,
voice?
homegirl. What?
No.
You're ready for school on
No.
time?
Mom.
I don't know who you are, but what have you done with my daughter?
What do you?
I
Yes.
just haven't seemed yourself. You seem almost,
Mom,
I
turn.
don't know, I just I like the new you.
What?
Thanks, Mom. It's a fox! I'll see you after school. It's not me! Just look at it! Yes. Have a good day, Mother.
What?
You too, Emily. I love you.
They got mind control over here.
I love you more.
Oh! It's a wrap. None of that story made sense, but okay. These are animated shorts, bro. I mean, this what y'all... Our next film is Don't Go Near the New Japanese Girl. If it makes you feel better, this was created by a Japanese person. It's another newcomer, and their name is Rai. Rai Horror, to be exact.
Was passed down at recess. Apparently, we were going to have a new classmate. Our teacher confirmed the rumors. There was a new student coming from Japan. However, she didn't know much else. And thus, the fated Friday of March 2012, she arrived. There was a small crowd gathered around her.
My name is Hikari. It's a pleasure to meet you all,
All right,
she said.
Nice name.
According to her, she had moved to our town as her wealthy parents were opening a Japanese restaurant chain here in America. So our town would be the location of the first restaurant. Hikari was slim and relatively tall. She had brown almond eyes and short brown hair. She was also wearing blue shorts and a pink Hello Kitty shirt. Boys and girls alike became instant fans, flooding her with compliments. Hikari wanted to reply to everyone, but she didn't know what to say. She was completely overwhelmed.
Don't say anything.
Hello,
That's what I do.
I'm Maria. Nice to meet you. I approached her.
Okay.
The chit-chat paused. Everyone but Hikari cringed and stared at me like they didn't want me to be there.
What?
I was feeling pretty uncomfortable.
You should.
Hikari doesn't have time for losers like you, Maria. Now scram.
Damn, buddy.
No, it's okay. She can stay if she wants to.
Hikari uttered. But I'd had enough. I left in silence. My feelings towards Hikari were peculiar. I didn't hate her, and she even seemed nice enough to let me stay. But she was with toxic people who only pretended to be her friends because she was attractive and wealthy.
They be like that
I'd been
sometimes.
living in the US since I was 5 years old, originally coming from Spain. However, my reception here in America was very different from Hikari's.
Yeah.
Compared to her, I wasn't the most attractive girl, and I'd come from an average suburban family.
Don't let nobody make you feel
I
that
had
way.
niche hobbies like video games and horror literature. I was pretty good at history and Spanish, thanks to my country of origin. But no one cared about those subjects.
Right.
You could become popular if you were sporty, artistic, or just straight up wealthy. You know, the usual. I didn't have any of those traits. I was just a typical nerd, who everyone knew, but no one cared about. I was on my way to the store when I saw a bunch of kids from school roaming around town with Hikari.
Hey, Maria.
She said, waving at me.
Hey, that's nice.
The other kids were telling her to ignore me as I awkwardly waved back.
Kids, bro.
I
Y'all
could
be
tell
so
that she
lame.
wanted to be friends, but she was letting herself be manipulated by those kids. Couldn't she see her so-called friends were clearly toxic?
Right.
Was she really that weak-minded?
Probably.
The next day, I was curled up on my couch reading a horror novel. When I was startled by the sound of my doorbell, I opened the door. It was Hikari. Hikari, what
Hey.
a surprise.
What's
I spoke.
up? What you doing here?
Hi, Maria.
I came to say sorry.
Sorry for what?
For not paying much attention to you as I should have. I want to be your friend, Maria. I really
Man,
do.
That's creepy,
But-
bro. You get
but
up out of
what?
here.
I also want to be with the others. Hikari, those people are not your friends. They only pretend to like you because you're rich and attractive. They only see you as a mere object to make themselves feel important.
Let them know.
But I need them.
Neat.
But it didn't sound like a reply. It was more like she was trying to convince herself.
Right.
Trust me, you don't.
Weirdo.
Anyways, wanna come in? I spoke. She nodded after snapping out of a little trance, entering the house.
Trance.
It turned out that we had
Trance.
plenty of things in common. She was
Yeah.
also very passionate about history and horror.
You're both
She was
teenage
really
girls.
into monsters from a Japanese mythology called yokai. She even recommended me several books about them. So I recommended her the novel I was reading in return. I had a blast that afternoon. When I had first met her, I thought she was one of those kids that were too cool for me, but she had gone out of her way to come and hang out with me. I felt amazing. A few hours later.
It's getting late. I have to go home to prepare for the yokai party.
What party?
I've organized a yokai-themed party at my parents' new restaurant tomorrow. I've invited every kid I met yesterday.
Really? Awesome.
What's
I've never been to a
yokai
Japanese
party?
restaurant.
I'm sorry, Maria, but you're not invited.
What?
What?
What a
Why?
friend, bro. You're not a friend.
I felt disappointed. I thought Hikari was my friend.
You playing games.
I could only guess that her toxic friends were behind this.
Don't get me wrong, Maria. You're awesome and a true friend, unlike the others.
Then why can't I come?
Right.
I don't understand.
Makes no sense.
Don't worry. I don't expect you to understand. Goodbye.
She said.
All right.
The plethora of conflicting emotions I felt was hard to describe.
Yeah, take it
It
for
was
what
a
it is.
strange mix of disappointment, betrayal, and confusion. I checked Instagram the following day. A girl who'd been invited to Hikari's party posted a picture of herself and her friends on their way to the restaurant, along with the caption, "On our way to the first Japanese party. See you all there.
What's the
Hikari rules. Hashtag Hikari. Hashtag yokai." Another kid posted the location, except there was something off about it. According to the post, the party took place in the outskirts of town.
Right?
I was pretty sure that there weren't any restaurants there. I looked on Google Maps. Nothing. The nearest Japanese restaurant was miles away. The only building that matched the coordinates was an abandoned warehouse. I was extremely confused, without a clue about the situation. Why would Hikari lie about her restaurant and lure everyone to a warehouse? This couldn't be an accident. I remember how strange she had acted when we
Y'all
were talking
chilling
about
with
the
a
party
killer.
the day prior. It was clear she was up to something, so I was going to
No,
get to the
sir.
bottom of it. I left home and headed to the supposed party's location using Google Maps.
I'd have let them
After
be.
20 minutes,
Leave them alone.
I spotted a small hill in the distance with what looked like an old building at the top. I paused for a moment to check the location on my phone. This was it. Suddenly, I heard loud echoing screams seemingly coming from the forest. I rushed up there determined to find out the truth. I slowly approached the abandoned warehouse at the top. I could hear weird noises coming from inside.
Weird, huh?
It sounded like something was being aggressively torn apart while
Right.
emitting some kind of animalistic growl. I peeked through a window. I nearly passed out.
Uh-oh.
When I saw Hikari hunched over a pile of corpses that were laying on the floor as she tore them apart like a hungry scavenger.
I was
Hikari,
not expecting that
I
at all.
whispered, completely frozen in terror. Hikari immediately dropped what she was doing and eerily turned her head towards me.
Uh-oh. Why
Her
are you trying
appearance
to
had
get her?
changed. Her pupils were now vertical and thin, almost like a snake's. Her teeth were abnormally sharp.
What?
They looked as if they had been specially designed to tear apart human flesh. She stood up and slowly advanced towards me.
Why do you
Her
want
eyes were
that
locked on me,
attention?
like those of a hawk, her shirt soaked with the blood of her foolish victims. Without a second thought, I frantically descended down the hill as I screamed in horror.
Yeah.
I wasn't even sure if she was chasing me, but I kept going. My vision blurred
Get on out of
as the
there.
wind pressed against my eyes. Hikari's
Get on out of
ear-piercing roar was the last thing that I'd ever hear from her.
I bet.
The kids who were last seen on their way to Hikari's party were never found, neither
I bet
dead
'cause they're
nor
dead.
alive. Hikari had also disappeared. It was as if she had never existed. After about a week, the teacher entered the classroom, accompanied by a boy I'd never seen before. "Good morning, everyone. This is your new Japanese classmate.
What?
Meet Hiro." Hiro introduced himself to the class as I stared in absolute confusion.
You gotta be careful. My girl out here with shape-shifting abilities. Up next, we have one that I'm very excited about. It's called Black-eyed kids are waiting at your doorstep by Oddity.
It was the summer of 1996 in Abilene, Texas, and a man by the name of Brian Bethel was sitting in his car at a local strip mall, filling out a check by the light of the nearby movie theater marquee. He was about to go slip this check through the after-hours drop box at his internet service provider's office, because believe it or not, back in the 90s, that's how you had to pay for internet access. He had just finished signing his name and was about to get out of his car when he heard a faint tapping at the window. Brian looked up, and to his surprise, two boys in dark hoodies were standing there with dark curly hair and tan skin, and the other was a little shorter, with very pale skin and red hair. Brian estimated they were between 8 and 12 years old. The older boy motioned for Brian to roll down the window, and he obliged, asking the two boys what was wrong. The older boy explained that he and his brother had come to see the last showing of the Mortal Kombat movie, but that they'd left the house without any money for tickets. The movie was going to start soon, and they didn't have time to walk, so the boys wanted to know if Brian would quickly give them a ride home so they could get the money from their mom. Immediately, Brian felt something was off. As a journalist, he'd had to interview a few children for local news stories, and he found that most children were hesitant to speak to adults they didn't know. But for some reason, these boys had no fear about asking a stranger for help. They seemed too confident, almost like they had rehearsed what they were saying, and Brian couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was going on. The older boy seemed to sense this unease in Brian, saying to him, "We're just two little kids. It's not like we have a gun or anything." Despite the fact that Brian was not reassured by this statement at all, he still found himself reaching for the lock on his car door. Even though it was a bad idea, and he knew it, he found himself compelled, as if by some outside force, to open the doors and let these two boys in. Brian looked back at the two boys, and by the dim light in the parking lot, he saw that something was very wrong with them. It was their eyes. Neither boy had any visible irises or whites to their eyes. Their eyes were solid black. Brian would later describe them as soulless orbs, like two great swaths of starless night. The boys were aware that Brian had noticed, and the older one, who was doing most of the talking, became even more pushy with his request. "You have to let us in," he said. "We can't come in unless you let us, so let us in." Completely freaked out at this point, rolled up his window and drove off, leaving his internet bill unpaid until the next day. While this might sound like a creepypasta, Brian's story is terrifyingly true, and when he finally posted his tale online, he would become the first person to record an encounter with creatures that would come to be known as Black-Eyed Kids. Black-Eyed Kids can be any race or gender, but they always appear to be between the ages of 6 and 16. They usually dress in hoodies, but there are many reports of them wearing noticeably old-fashioned clothes. Aside from their solid black eyes, there never seems to be anything physically abnormal about them, but witnesses often describe feeling an intense uneasiness or dread while interacting with them, even before they notice their eyes. Black-eyed kids most often show up at night, though they have been seen during the day, and they usually travel in pairs. Typically, one kid will do the talking, while the other stays silent. A typical black-eyed kid encounter will involve the kids asking for something that normally involves coming into the home or vehicle of whoever they're speaking to. Usually, this is under the pretense of needing to use the phone or the bathroom. Because of their insistence on being let in, many have theorized that black-eyed kids may be a type of vampire, while others believe that they're some kind of human-alien hybrids or demons, and there's some other mysterious and terrifying reason why they must be invited in. As for what happens when the kids get what they want, very few accounts exist from people who have let the black-eyed kids in, and some have cited that as proof that you won't live to tell the tale if you do. One sighting took place in 2012 at a gas station in Louisiana and was recounted to the host of the show Darkness Radio 3 years later in 2015. The person telling the story was a man who worked at the gas station, which was the only one for miles on a lonely stretch of highway. It was 3 a.m. and the power had just gone out. The man navigated his way to the backup generator and switched it on. But strangely, only the lights over the parking lot and register lit up. The rest of the shop was still enveloped in darkness. The man looked out into the now lit-up parking lot and noticed 3 children riding up to the station on their bikes. As he looked at them, 2 of the children, 1 boy and 1 girl, hopped off their bikes and headed for the door. Concerned, the man went to open the door and asked the children what was wrong. After all, it wasn't normal to see young kids riding their bikes around at 3 a.m. The girl asked him if she could use his phone, and he handed her his cell phone. She refused to take it, pointing to the landline behind the cash register and saying, "No, I need the real phone." The man looked at the phone, and then back at the girl, and and that was when he noticed both she and her companion had solid black eyes. Terrified, he slammed the door closed and locked it, telling the girl that she and her friends had to go home.
Get on out of there.
They stared at him for a moment before turning around and getting back on their bikes to leave. The next day, the man told his boss what happened, but unfortunately, due to the power failure, the security cameras hadn't captured any evidence of this strange encounter. Another black-eyed kid encounter was reported by Lee Brickley, a paranormal investigator who spoke to a woman in Cannock Chase, England, in 2014. The woman had been out with her daughter when they heard a child screaming nearby. Concerned that a child might be in danger, the woman went searching until she found a little girl in a white dress who had her hands over her eyes. The woman asked the little girl what was wrong and where her parents were. The girl took her hands away from her eyes, and the woman realized the girl's eyes were solid black. Frightened, the woman grabbed her own child and ran away. Brickley was initially interested in this story because his aunt had once described a similar encounter in 1982, over a decade before Brian Bethel's encounter sparked interest in black-eyed kids. Brickley's aunt reported a similar experience. She saw a little girl in white walking around by herself, and when she tapped the girl on the shoulder to ask if she was lost, the girl turned to her, revealing black eyes. The black-eyed girl from Cannock Chase has been spotted multiple times, and in 2015, she was even allegedly captured on amateur drone footage. On Reddit, a user posted about a terrifying black-eyed kid encounter they'd had when they were still themselves just a child. It happened on March 17th, 2008, when they were 12 years old. They were sitting in the car outside of a hairdresser, waiting for their mother's appointment to finish, when they saw someone they thought was one of their classmates. They started banging on the window to get their attention, but when the boy turned to them, they realized it was a stranger. The Reddit user said, "The boy walks over to the side of my car and just stares. I think to let me get a good look at his eyes, to freak me out. Let me tell you, if you have never seen a black-eyed kid, you have no idea what to imagine. Pupils black as the night sky." The boy demanded to be let into the car, scaring the 12-year-old so much that they ducked under the seats. When their mother returned to the car, she told them that, while she'd been in the salon, something strange had happened. A boy with black eyes had come in, but that wasn't all. The strange child had tried to take her car keys. One of the only stories of a person actually letting black-eyed kids into their home comes from Vermont in January 2016. A blizzard was raging outside, and a married couple were sitting in their front room together when they heard a knock at the door. Thinking it might be someone who had crashed their car in the snow or gotten stranded and needed help, the wife jumped up to answer the door. When she did, she saw two children standing on her porch, one boy and one girl, who both looked about 8 years old and didn't seem to be dressed for the weather. Immediately worried for their safety, the woman brought them inside and sat them down on the couch. Looking back on the event, the woman said it was around 2 o'clock in the morning at this point, so the only reasonable thought in my head was that there must have been an accident or these kids got lost. As much as my instincts told me not to bring them inside, I did it anyway. The first strange thing she noticed about the children was that her cats hissed at them as she brought them into the room. Ignoring the warning signs from her felines, the woman asked the two children if they wanted some hot chocolate to warm them up. They declined the offer, saying that their parents would be there soon. The woman found it strange that they seemed so sure their parents were coming there, since they hadn't even asked to use the phone. The woman went to fetch the children their hot drinks, and when she returned to hand the children their mugs, she finally saw that they both had black eyes. Before drinking any of their cocoa, both children suddenly asked if they could use the bathroom. Trying to keep calm, the woman pointed them in the direction of the bathroom. They passed her husband on the way, and once they had left the room, the husband's nose started to bleed. The power suddenly went out, and when the lights came back on, the children were in the front hallway of the house, staring at the door. The boy said, "Our parents are here." When the husband and wife looked out the front window, they saw a long black car parked out the front of their house, with two men in black coats standing on the pavement. The children then left through the front door, not seeming to care about the snow, and got into the car along with the two men in black coats. The car then drove away like it was nothing, even though it should have been impossible on the heavily snow-covered road. If that wasn't scary enough, a few months after the encounter, the couple's health started to deteriorate. The woman, who emailed the story to the website Weak and Weird, didn't go into specifics, but she claimed that her husband had been diagnosed with a form of skin cancer, and that she herself had been suffering from chronic headaches and nosebleeds. These are just a few of the stories you can find online about black-eyed kids, and reports of the phenomenon have only increased in the past decade. Whether that's because people are making stories up to jump on a trend, or if it's because the popularity of Black-Eyed Kids stories gives people who have seen them the confidence to share their own encounters, we may never know. But if you get a knock on your door tonight and find some kids asking to use your bathroom, don't say we didn't warn you.
What a lovely story. I think we had some unique things. I'm going to give this one on a scare factor like a 5 out of 10, man. I need you guys to find me on Twitter, Ronnie_AO, hashtag Jump Scare Saturday. Send me the link to the scariest video. You know, I want to see what kind of things you guys are into. In the meantime, if you like this, you want to see more like it, don't forget to strike a pose on that like button. Subscribe now to join the AO fam. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Bye. Perfect.
Supreme victory!